Carlos.
Careful. Watch out for this course, Carlos. Watch this one.
Yeah.
Good to go? All right. Thanks for showing up. I'd like to thank Chairman Jordan and the members of the Judiciary Committee for coming to Chicago and highlight the issues we have here. The reality is, no matter what side of the aisle you're from, we're never going to agree 100% on a lot of things, but if you do not talk about them, solutions never come and nothing ever changes. As Lieutenant Garrido said, surrender is not an option here. If we're going to save this city, and it is savable, we need to keep having more of these conversations, not less, because they're uncomfortable. The only way things change is by having uncomfortable conversations in rooms that are not friendly to you sometimes, because that's how you change hearts and minds. That's how things change, and that's the only way we have a better Chicago. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chairman Jordan.
John, thank you, and thanks for hosting the committee hearing today. I thought it was a tremendous hearing with just powerful testimony from our three witnesses, and I'm going to let each of them step up here in just a minute. But I would just underscore some things that I think came out in the hearing. When you defund the police, you shouldn't be surprised when you get more crime. When you have a state law passed that gets rid of cash bail, you shouldn't be surprised when you get more crime. And when you have prosecutors who let the bad guys roam the streets and not prosecute them, you shouldn't be surprised when you get more crime that have to change. I thought it was particularly interesting that the comments we heard from our witnesses about how this is hurting morale of our law enforcement officers and making it tough to recruit people to do the tough job that the men and women who put on that uniform have every single day. So again, very insightful, important information I think we need to get out and as well take back that can help us do our job. With that, I want to recognize our witnesses, and we'll start with Mr. Caldwell, and then we'll move to our others.
Thank you, Chairman Jordan and the members of the committee. This was a very substantive conversation about what's going on in the city of Chicago as we lose our blood and treasure and our youth and old alike on a daily basis. Just three days ago, we saw an 86-year-old man who was carjacked and murdered. Unacceptable. We can talk about the soft on crime policies, which we did, leaders from the governor to the mayor to the county prosecutor. All of those things are critically important. But what's also important is what parents are doing at homes. That's the first level of governance that any child or youth would experience. Parents in the city of Chicago must step up. There's no time for excuses. I understand people have to work and there's a lot of things going on in individuals' lives, but we know that a lot of these young people, they're 11 years old, they're carjacking, they're robbing, they're shooting. It is absolutely unacceptable. We need law and order, but we also need the foundation of parents or parental figures in the homes to start disciplining these children and holding them accountable. Otherwise, we're going to be here many, many more times. Thank you.
Officer Yanez.
How you doing? I just would like to see some accountability. I feel that a lot of leaders and elected officials right now that came up with this Safety Act, with this cash bail, should be held accountable for when these offenders are released and then attack the victims and the witnesses that are basically going to be their witness, for court. It's terrible what's going to happen, and I already see it happening, and they should be held accountable. And if for our children, our youth, there needs to be set example. If you're a juvenile or a minor and you're committing these violent crimes, you should be held accountable. It's going to send a message to our innocent youth that are growing up so that they can learn and see that there's a cause to your reaction or repercussions for your actions. So if you want to save the youth, this is what we need to do. We need to start holding these offenders accountable, because they're only getting younger. And the only way we're going to do that is if we see some more accountability.
Thank you, Officer. Lieutenant?
criminals don't ask your party affiliation before they stick you up or they shoot at you. And that's my fear, is that this is going to be overshadowed with partisan politics, and that's not the case at all. This is just about getting the word out as much as we can to try to wake the public up to understand that elections have consequences. We have, 1991 was when I came on the job, we had over 900 murders. And with the right people in place, the right supervisors in place, and the right policies in place, we were able to get that down to below 500 by the year 2010, 2012. Since 2016, we've been trending the opposite direction. So clearly something changed, something shifted, and I personally believe that it's the policies that have been put in place by those who've been elected by a very, very small percentage of the voter population, because most voters just stay home. So I think these are important. I think this is hopefully a wake-up call to the citizens of Chicago to pay attention to who they're voting for.
We can take a couple questions.
Chairman, what can be done,
Go here and then here.
what can be done on a national level to address problems in cities like Chicago?
I think step one is to highlight how serious the concern is. It's why this is not our first stop. We were in New York City a few months ago. We plan on going to other cities where there are similar kind of concerns and showing the country, like, you can't have prosecutors who take the approach that prosecutors in our urban areas are taking today. Hurts morale, it just hurts families, it hurts the community, it hurts the city. So we'll continue to do that. But then there's some things we can do with certain Justice Department grants that go to local police departments. I think there's some measures we can take there as well.
So how are you going to get Governor Pritzker, Attorney General Rahul, State's Attorney Fox, Chief Judge Evans here to have a conversation with you and Gianna Caldwell and all these others? Have a conversation, make them accountable. When are the press going to report? When are they going to report that they're not here?
Well, I think they need to have that conversation with Officer Yanez, Lieutenant Garrido, Mr. Caldwell. I think that's a conversation that needs to take place, and that's why we had these three amazing individuals as witnesses today, to hopefully start that conversation and move policies in a sane direction, in a common sense direction. I mean, I learned some things today about this no foot chase policy. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard. But that's actually the policy here. So let's start that conversation.
Chairman,
Last question.
the Democrats were preemptively addressing this hearing yesterday, saying this is really all just political, designed to make Democrats look bad. Can you respond to their allegations about this being all political theater?
We've had it scheduled for months. Everyone knew it was going to happen. We've been planning on coming here. As I said before, it's not the first. This is not political. This is about helping families who've been impacted in a real way. I don't think Mr. Caldwell will say there was anything political about the tragedy that happened to his younger brother. I don't think there's nothing political about the tragedy that happened to Officer Yanez doing his job, helping people, doing what he's always wanted to do, what his family has done. That's not political. That's just trying to draw attention to a real problem that impacts people. So they can say that, but it's just not true. With that, thank you all.